So, Professor Kakar, should we start or you will wait for a minute?
So, Dr. Saha, we'll get started in a couple of minutes.
Sure.
You're still on mute, I think. We can't hear you.
Can you not hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah,
Maybe your microphone is.
Is it sounding very soft?
No, we can hear you very well.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So, Professor Kakar, can you not hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, we can't hear you yet.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Now I can hear. The fault was at my end. Sorry.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
That's okay.
We have to hear you and we have to also listen to you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Prof. Shah, should we get started?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. Fellow council members, fellows of INSA, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final session of today's proceedings. It is my pleasure to invite the President of INSA, Professor Chandrima Shaha, the J.C. Bose Chair Professor at the Indian Institute of Chemical Biology, Kolkata, to deliver the presidential address, which is entitled Science Communication in Current Times, Challenges and Opportunities. Professor Shaha.
Thank you, Professor Kakar. First, let me say that how entertaining it is to really attend the anniversary meeting, and it is our celebration. So I thank everyone who has taken part in this. And these lectures are really stimulating lectures. And all of these will be available on INSA YouTube channel. And anyone, including the general public, can access them. And a direct link is there in the INSA website. So I chose the topic of science communication in current times, challenges and opportunities, because science during the past 2 years have progressed in a breakthrough speed. And we have been informed about decisions that affect our lives through media and other means. This is where actually science communication comes in. COVID-19 is going to be there, but as we know more about the disease and find ways to manage it, other issues like biodiversity, gene editing, and environment need to be discussed and addressed to have a habitable planet. during the recent pandemic, the importance of science communication was deeply felt, and many platforms started communicating information, so much so that WHO labeled it infodemic, and it became difficult for the public to filter out the signal from the noise. I would like to discuss some of these issues, and I think it is a matter of creating interest in people, because this time we have seen, unlike when pandemic was not there, a reasonable part of the society actually was taking interest in many of scientific issues and talking in terms of like mutants, variants, flattening of the curve, etc. So it is also a matter of creating interest. And how do we create an interest? So increased awareness in scientific matters can be achieved by presenting the facts in an understandable and enjoyable way. This is very important because and we all know that actually. But if we recapitulate that, if you are presenting in a manner that is really engaging to the listener, then the whole point is well received. This helps in opinion forming and a feeling that science is attractive, and above all, it is an integral part of our lives. Success in science communication depends on the ability of the coordinator to actually build a trust with the audience through understandable and attractive discourses. Now, I came across a book called Effective Science Communication, and where they have stated, the review of the book was quite good. And it said that to become better scientists, we need to be more effective at both communicating our research to the scientific community and discussing it with non-scientists. So that is where an effective science communication comes in. And important thing is belief in science, because many of the issues that we address are clouded in some other belief. So better communications of science-related information is required. It is actually required. Often confusing matters lead to mistrust, because once I'm hearing this, once I'm hearing that, that leads to mistrust. Now, cutting through noise here is very important. As I said, that we have a lot of noise in the information that we're getting. And it is frequent that people disbelieve scientifically supported information when they feel they must do so to protect the deeply held values. This is very important in our country because there are values that we tend to hold on to and disbelieve scientific evidence because we are not very familiar with it. So we need to communicate not only the information about science, say not only the information about the pandemic or the environment, etc., but we have to communicate with the people that how science operates, how the scientific process works, and about the scientific rigor and evidence generation, how we collect data, how we do the experiments, and how we, not that everything they will understand, but it is in a very simple language, we have to tell people that what is science about? How do we collect data? How do we generate data? How do we evaluate data? And how do we communicate then? So this will build more trust. So communication of the scientific process is equally important. Now, when we are talking about science, the issue of pseudoscience also comes on. So the boundary between pseudoscience and science is really problematic. So the ability to recognize this fuzzy science from convincing evidence-based scientific data is something that needs to be communicated to stakeholders, which in these cases are students, members of the public, and so that what is pseudoscience and science, they can actually distinguish. Now, we live in a technological and a risky world. You remember the Chernobyl disaster of 1986, then the Fukushima nuclear accident in Japan, the bird flu scare, the scare of the other two SARS epidemics, and then closer to home, the Bhopal gas tragedy, and the forest fires now in recent times, very widespread forest fires, and finally, the coronavirus. So this is a world that we live in, and many questions arise in the minds of people. I mean, I have faced many of the questions, and there is a misconception about nuclear peaceful use of nuclear energy. So after a nuclear disaster, people will ask, what is a nuclear fallout? What are the effects of radiation? What is the effect on health? Irradiated food that are there, are they safe? And are nuclear installations safe? So then what is a virus? How can it infect us? How is it preventable? Effect on health, and so on and so forth. Why there are so many SARS-CoV-2 strains, and why are they changing, and why is science not able to stop it? And like after the Bhopal gas tragedy, it was like, what is methyl thiocyanate? How it can affect us, and which industries are actually dangerous, because no one knew about this danger. So there are multiple questions that come to the minds of people, and that leads to societal reactions, like the anti-nuclear demonstration, or even no COVID vaccine. So misinformation about nuclear energy has actually led to this, and people do not understand. So whenever there is an issue of construction of nuclear reactors somewhere near, some villages or some areas, there are usually activism and, protests. Communication of real facts are actually crucial to enhance public knowledge. So it is not about that particular reactor or particular thing that is going to be there, but the safety of it, but the basic principle of it. So these needs to be really communicated. And no need to tell that vaccine hesitancy has been rampant, and this can worsen an epidemic or a pandemic, as that is the only remedy for many diseases. Now, in India, about 8 crore people have taken the first dose of the vaccine, but they have not taken the second dose. And unfortunately, many of university professors are there in this that I know of. I mean, I'm not naming anybody else, but some of my friends and some of my friends' friends, they have not taken the second dose because they think that it is hurting their health. So these kind of illusions we should actually remove by propagating more science-based programs, science-based news. So these are the things that happens with society. Now, also to prepare society for future, we need to reach to young people to shape rational thinking and to shape the experts of tomorrow. For future of our economies, environment, societies, it is critical that the next generation of talented people embrace a career in sciences. And for that, we need to convince society. We need to convince these young people. One clear aim of science communication is to inspire better understanding of science by policymakers as well. It is not only the future scientists or future generation, but the policymakers as well, who will make the policies for science. So ideally, this can be this can lead to evidence-based public policy, because if science communication is good, then the policymakers may hear, and it is all politicized in our country. So we have to keep a balance here. And so the decision making of the government is helped by scientific communication. Now, this is one of the very early examples of science communication, which is very inspiring. Michael Faraday started in 1825 a lecture series in Royal Institution in Great Britain. And these were called Christmas lectures. He himself carried out 19 series of lectures. And in this Christmas lecture, the particular photograph you're seeing is that he spoke about chemical history of a candle. And in doing so, he taught the young boys in the audience about the physics and chemistry behind one of the most essential items in their homes. So these lectures were actually given by different people, and they were series. And Faraday actually raised the the fame of his institute as an education center after he started this, and it continued till very late, and it's still continuing today. So this is a very inspiring example of science communication. Another I thought was interesting sorry, just a minute. I think I'm not in the full screen mode. Yes. Am I in the full screen mode? Yeah, sorry. So another is the Huxley-Wilberforce debate, where after 7 months after Charles Darwin's Origin of Species publication, there was a debate. This was started as a discussion between Thomas Huxley and Samuel Wilberforce. Huxley's name all of you know, but Samuel Wilberforce was the bishop of Oxford. And there was a heated debate about whether humans have actually emerged from gorillas or monkeys. So there was a heated debate, and this was attended by the general public. So there was a lot of difference of opinion. The public were divided, and church at that point of time had a huge influence on the culture of the society. So eventually, I think there was two groups which divided. And Huxley's speech actually ended with him stating that he was not ashamed to have a monkey for his ancestor, but that he would be ashamed to be connected with a man with a clouded judgment. Now, whatever the public was, there were actually some members of the public would have got educated in this debate or discussion. It actually started as a discussion, then it landed up as a debate. So this is another example of a very inspiring example of science communication that happened in the past. And now the world has changed. We have the World Wide Web. The World Wide Web is actually has caused a revolution. And India is the second largest internet market in the world. And if you look at, there's a report in the PNS that social media is used by 20% of people. This is, I think, a worldwide average. And online news sites are 30%. Print form has really gone down to 16%, and broadcast media is about 30%. Now, if you look at the language-wise use of internet users in India, you see that Hindi is the most popular one. Then it's the Gujarati, then it's Maharashtrian, and then it's Bengali, and then English is, of course, there. So there is this great opportunity in this kind of social media usage that we have opportunities to spread the message of science. And given the complex, interconnected global challenges of the 21st century, more and better science communication will be essential in the developing world and in the developed world too. So this is something that we should remember, that come what may, we have to keep on informing people about science, and we can discuss some of the ways we can do it. Now, we are truly living in a golden age of science communication. With all the technology available to us, we have a great opportunity to know and analyze the events around us. There is also the opportunity to use various modes of communication to reach out to people. We have a digital information overload, no doubt about that. So there is a need to integrate information from science and personal values to make important life decisions, because many of these issues influence the lives of people. It is not only understanding of the subjects, but also learning of the sources of information to trust. Trust is very important, and be able to take out the real information from the surrounding noise, and the citizens need help to decide on the right choice. Now, the social media, as you can see, that I'm sure you're well aware of it, that the Twitter has 320 million followers, the YouTube has 2 billion, WhatsApp has 1 billion, Pinterest has 100 million, Instagram has 400 million. So there is a huge following of social media here. In addition to the social media, we have the programs like TED Talks, where there are short talks, very important talks on various issues that is interesting for the people, and science can be scientific information can be given through that. And I am sure many of you watch the TED Talks. There are early career research network of networks. There are interactive posters. There are infographics. We have to talk to interactive infographics, in fact. And then there are master classes. Like there is one very attractive one is by Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is an astronomer and is head of one of the planetariums in US. And he teaches scientific thinking and communication. His discourses are very interesting. Then there is a classroom science by the American Association for Advancement of Science, which is that is a possibility with INSA, because during their annual general meeting, they have a classroom science where public comes in and they talk to the public, or even request citizens to make presentations, which is a form of a citizen science. If you look at users of social media in India, the social network user penetration this is predicted from 2015 to 2040. And we are somewhere here, 22, where it would be 755 millions. And then eventually it will go to a very high number of 1,500 or something million into 2040. So with the top social networking sites, which are Facebook, WhatsApp, Messenger, Google+, Skype, etc., there is a lot of traffic in the internet, and the social sites are getting to be very popular. So in India has a great possibility in propagation of information through this. It's actually a worldwide phenomenon, but in our country also there is a huge proportion of people who are using the social media. Now this I thought was very interesting. We have, like INSA has a Twitter. So these Twitter sentiments on social distancing was actually analyzed. And it was found that there was a very positive sentiment about social distancing in general all over the world. And also on work from home, where there were very positive, initially there was a negative response, which is red, and then there was a positive response about work from home in the blue graph, what it shows. But what is more interesting is that when you analyze general sentiment on Twitter, you see the United States of America has very negative people. They are all red. This is a general use of Twitter. So the most negative countries in the Twitter are Brazil, Portugal, Hong Kong, Argentina, Singapore, USA, France, Sweden, Malaysia, and Mexico. But within the most positive on Twitter, it is China, India, Saudi Arabia, Tanzania, Switzerland, Pakistan. So I thought this was very interesting, because then one can actually analyze what is the thought process of people on various issues. If you analyze the Twitter data, there were 5 million tweets from 82 countries that were analyzed, and this requires a huge analysis. So I'm sure this was done by the University of Southern California department in School of Engineering. So I hope we will get more data on this and look at these interesting facts. Now, INSA has a social media, like we have the Facebook, and the Facebook covers announcements of webinars, discussion, reports on them, pictures, competition and results, reports on programs at INSA, news related to fellows, fellowships, international academies. And the people reached actually a 3.47 lakh, which I don't think is a huge number. And we have to strive to increase this. Engagement is with about 38,000 people, and reactions are 7,000 people have given reactions, and comments also have been received. And there are shares of about 370. Our Twitter account also reports similar things and has about 3,000 followers. What I think we are lacking here in this particular social media engagements that we have with Facebook and Twitter and Twitter is that we do not put scientific information. So I think there are ways to improve this, and I've sort of put what we can do. that we can present summary of publications from INSA journals in simple language, along with interviews with authors. So that's a very interesting thing, that you interview the author and then you give a summary of the paper from, for example, that would be great for the Indian Journal of History of Science. And I'm not sure mathematical journal, how much they will appeal, but INSA also, I mean, short stories with interviews. I think this is something we should start. And also solicit material like photos or short snippets from fellows, and meeting reports, like for example, this meeting, a report of this meeting in an understandable way, and what we discussed and what are the issues. We have discussed very important things, like for example, in the last session, there was Professor Gagandeep Kang talking about what is the scenario of COVID. It was a wonderful lecture. And then also Saman Habib talked about the malaria. So there are very important stories that can come in. And then we can ask for videos from fellows describing their science for public consumption. And all, regarding, controlling our privacy or whatever we have to do with our research data, but we can just, for public consumption, talk about general science also. And all the INSA lectures are on YouTube channel, as I said. So these are accessible to people, and one can access it, and we can put our videos on YouTube channel, which some fellows may offer. And about the life of Indian scientists, that we have some very good documentaries, and there are some of these are on the website of Indian Academy of Sciences. Now, simple narratives can really bring about societal change of behavior. If you look at it, the small drawings like how not to wear a mask, and they are showing you how to actually wear a mask. Then the flattening of the curve, which shows that if you follow certain rules, there will be, with protective measures, you will get a flattening of the curve. So COVID-19 has actually taken out science in the public gaze, and it is far more than ever it has happened. So science here has taken a center stage, and government, policymakers, common people are all looking at scientists. Simple narratives showing how taking small measures can flatten the curve works. And science is not constant. The limitations, the uncertainties need to be communicated properly, emphasizing that narratives can change. An appropriate change of behavior is essential. For example, initially, when COVID came about, we were not very sure how it was spreading and what was the mechanism of spread. But later on, when it was established by some papers, one of them I remember is in PNS, and that how it spreads is actually the aerosol cloud. And it has small droplets, it has large droplets. The large droplets tend to fall, and the small droplets tend to hang around to infect some a susceptible host. So this kind of information can make very important societal change. Now there is a challenge here, because the data were coming out so fast, and you can see that in about 6 months or 8 months time, there was a huge amount of papers published as PubMed recorded and Scopus dependent journals, and then Scopus recognized journals, and also the preprints. So this scientific data that came at a very fast pace, at a time when the disease, the knowledge about the disease was, we were beginning to understand it, then the virus was also evolving, the social behavior also evolving, people were tending to behave in a certain way. There was a diversity in people's behavior. So all this was changing. Now, at the time of this change, the recommendations that came had a degree of uncertainty in the face of these rapid advances. Now, this certainty was required at a time of great uncertainty, but that became very difficult. And uncertain information that arose was perceived through a lens of certainty. So I hear uncertain news, which is changing, but it is looked with a lens of certainty by some people. And in that way, society has put pressures to conform. So this is something that we have to be wary about. For the general public, this actually became a problem, as well as the policymakers, because they want a certain information. But as science is evolving, the uncertain information was there, which was changing. And this is something very hard to deal with. I mean, even now we have the data changing, the mutants are creating, a lot of like whether they are going to be neutralized by the vaccine or not, what is happening to our immune system. So all these are changing. So that certain information is difficult to come by. But if you understand then that this can happen, then you don't develop that mistrust. But I must mention that many of the prominent scientists did an outstanding job of explaining the pandemic to the public in an approachable and simple way. That has helped. But surely we could have done more. Now, INSA has, as you know, a lecture series. We had for COVID-19, we had a series of lectures. And then also to give relief, we had other subjects as well. So, and also we published a white paper, and that is also for communication primary to the policymakers, but it is written in such a simple way that Professor N.K. Mehra edited, that can be read by the public as well. And we have distributed it to universities, to colleges, etc. Now we tried to reach out to students and the general people through two of our competitions. One is, this was in collaboration with ACRB, that Science Through My Eyes was a photography competition. There's still photographs and videos were there. And then there is an essay competition which is ongoing about our lives and the sciences during and after the pandemic. So we tend to get a lot of information about how the students, how the postgraduates, how the graduates, and how the professionals are actually thinking. So this was a very interesting exhibition that we put on the web, and it's still on the INSA website about the pictures that came in. And now the essay competition is even more interesting, the essays that are coming in. So this is ongoing. Now, these are some examples of the INSA ACRB Science Through My Eyes competition. And they had, along with the photographs, they had little explanations of what it is and what they thought and how they composed it. So the first group was PhD students and postdoctoral fellows, where we got 157 entries, and group 2 was those pursuing a professional degree, and 59 entries we got, and practicing scientists and other working professionals, there were 35 entries. But what I want to say that this was advertised only through our social media handles, the Facebook, the Twitter, and the website. So, but still we got a sufficient amount of entries. Yeah, so the entry number was actually almost 500 for still photos, and video entries were about 170. We have also taken up issues that are very important, and we've had lectures, like we have a global warming and a situation which is a catastrophic, almost going to be catastrophic with the environment. And on the World Environment Day, we had one lecture, Why to Restore the Ecosystem, Safeguarding Environment and Health. And then one of our foreign fellows, Professor Ravi Shankar, actually spoke about are people in developing countries paying with their lives to reduce climate change? And he actually presented very many data about India's environment, which was quite impressive and very relevant to the current times. So that lecture is on our website. One can see it if they want. The INEAS is the Young Scientists Forum from INSA, and they organized actually more than 200 webinars during the COVID times. And in 2021 April, they launched a multi-pronged nationwide awareness campaign on COVID-19 vaccination, which was very necessary. So this included organizing audio and video competitions for school and college students, launching a mobile app where you can get information on COVID, then Gyantika webinar series, and a booklet on myths on vaccination translated in 11 regional languages. This was a humongous effort on part of them, but because they are all young scientists trying to build their careers, but even then they took out time to do this. And to reach out to rural India, several programs were executed in local languages, and documents were translated in regional languages, actual documents, scientific documents that came in. They also did outreach activities for young scholars. And this year they have also worked on a few white papers highlighting the need for curiosity-driven research, impact of COVID-19 on Indian research scholars, and status and challenges before young scientists and women scientists. Now, this is a very famous fresco by Italian artist Raphael. It's called the School of Athens. And it has come to symbolize the marriage of art, philosophy, and science. And that was actually a hallmark of Italian Renaissance. But if you look at this painting, and if you look at it in depth, you will see that what I have shown here are just snippets cut out from the painting, where it shows this is Euclid, who's there, and then this is Pythagoras, and this is Socrates. There is Aristotle and Plato. And so what this painting actually showed, that art, philosophy, and science actually goes together. So, and that is how one should perceive the world. This is indeed a very great creation of Raphael, and it happened in 1509. So scientists are increasingly seeking out visual artists and designers to help them to communicate their work to new audiences. So artists help scientists to reach a broader audience and make emotional connection that actually enhances learning. So I took out this particular example. It is Native Roots. It's watercolor on paper, and one of the several works in an exhibition called Uprooted, Plants in a Changing Climate. So they are what I understood was they're showing that this root is on fire because of the climate change. And they had little installations which described what was thought about. And so since art is a form of, is an expression that appeal to people, there are a lot of exhibits are now there which borders around science. Now, if you look at this magnificent photograph, this is actually, it can hang in an exhibition. But what it is about scientists taking samples from volcanic salt plains of the northern Ethiopia, one of the most extreme environments on Earth. Water here has 7 to 10 times the salt content of the sea. So it can be heated to temperatures above 100 degrees centigrade. Can water be boiled above 100 degrees centigrade? So these are the questions that were there. And if you look at this, that it can go just like a painting. But then the audience actually relates it to science, and that is how science ideas get propagated. There is one very interesting example of science and the performing arts, which is called Dance Your PhD. This was first established by American Association for the Advancement of Science to celebrate the intersection of art and science, and it started in Vienna in 2008. And then it continued, where scientists gathered to watch their colleagues explain their PhD thesis with interpretive dance. So this is very interesting, because they could dance that cytoskeletons are falling apart, cytoskeletons are going together, and mitochondria is traveling in the cell. So this was all expressed. You cannot use PowerPoint, you cannot use anything, any word. You have to just show it expressed by your dance. It's a difficult proposition, but there were many prize-winning entries which are interesting to see and show that how if one thinks, one can design out ways to reach out to the public. Now, how scientists view the public? Almost universally, the scientists believe that the public is inadequately informed, and except for a small minority, public is uninterested in becoming more knowledgeable, which is an exception now because of this impact of COVID-19. Many people have got interested in science. And this is actually a deficit model of science communication that sees scientific illiteracy at the root of opposition to new technologies and environmental action. Scientists see the public as homogeneous, which is not, because it's a very heterogeneous public out there. Actual experience of interacting with the public tends to give scientists a more nuanced view and encouraging scientists to view the public as a diverse in background, orientation, and views. So it is true that when you are talking to an audience, you're talking to a heterogeneous group of people. And that would give you a nuanced view, because I remember going to some colleges to speak, and students who came up, I mean, they were like 2 hours on the stage asking repeatedly questions. And there was a very heterogeneous group of people and very, very entertaining experience. I'm sure it has happened with most of you. One of the ways in which the gap between scientists and society could be bridged is strengthening the foundations of science journalism and science communication in the country. There are many science journalists now who write very well. But scientists want their stories to be told in a way that they're not misunderstood. So that is up to the scientist whether to trust the journalist or not. And similarly, journalists want the scientists to communicate their ideas in a way that are not misunderstood. So there is a responsibility in both ways, to the journalists as well as to the scientists. And scientific information that needs to be simple, carefully worded, and visual and entertaining above all. And so in doing that, some of the information may get changed so that scientists feel very wary of the journalists. But journalists also have their problems. The scientists have no idea how journalists actually work in the newsroom, and journalists also have to recognize the limitations of scientists. We would like to make a platform for journalists and scientists to meet at INSA, and scientific knowledge generated by Indian researchers are really made public, and which is what we want to do, that whatever data can be spared for public consumption may be discussed with the journalists. And if we can make a platform where the both, not necessarily that they have to listen and report then and there, but to meet and understand each other. This is one of the issues that INSA can address. Now, as I talked about misinformation, that COVID infodemic, the public support for policies to control the spread of SARS-CoV-2 is actually being undercut by all the misinformation. So the World Health Organization brought out this brochure where it says managing the COVID-19 infodemic. And so that is our great responsibility as to what are the misinformations that we have to remove. And if we come to know about misinformation that is circulating, we have to take steps to remove those misinformations. So the strategic focus could be that INSA has actually the power to influence public opinion as a society for science communication, because we have thought leadership in areas where we need to reach out beyond our immediate networks. There are scientists, there are fellows who are experts in areas, and they can reach out beyond their own realm and actually talk to the public. As a trusted body of scientists forming a source of knowledge, INSA can advise based on scientific evidence across a wide range of science-related policy spectrum. We need to actually bring out more white papers and issues that are of importance in the current days. And our goal is to provide a platform for promoting science communication and identifying specific activities to which academics can contribute. We have been communicating science, and we have been helping in propagation of science since long. But I think in the current scenario, we can improve ourselves. Now, we can have science communication meetings with leading communicators and scientists, media researchers, academic policymakers, and science educators, effectively creating a community of science communicators, practitioners, and researchers. So the major objectives would be increasing knowledge and understanding of science, sharing recent findings and excitement for science, increasing public appreciation of science, influencing the opinions and policy preferences. These are our goals, and some of them we achieve, some of them we don't. And ensuring that a diversity of perspectives by different groups are used when solutions to societal problems are pursued. Like, what I mean here is that we have to be inclusive and take different strata of society in to sort of form opinions about the societal problems. This is what I really wanted to say, and hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Shaha. Now the floor is open for questions and comments. There's already one in the chat box. So I asked Dr. Arun Majumdar if he would like to speak out his question.
Well, he asks that should science communication skill be taken as a qualifying index for nomination or selection of fellows in INSA? So that is something that, is very difficult to gauge. And we mainly rely on the excellence of science performed. So I'm not sure if we can do that as a criteria for selection. But I hope that scientists like us who are there would be more inclined to talk about science in easy ways to the public and to the students. We've had programs like this in INSA before. When we were in the COVID days, and I hope that with the online connections, it has become easier. But it's more entertaining when you're speaking one-to-one. So I hope we can continue that. Yes. Someone says INSA IC department request all FNAs to share their social media handles. This is about Facebook and Twitter. So I don't know how people will respond to this, but whoever wants, there is no compulsion. Whoever wants to share their Twitter or Facebook handles, you can, give to INSA IC.
Professor Shaha, I'd like to just share one piece of information. There is a company which has, it's a small company, and they have PhDs in science and engineering who run that company. And the service they provide is that, if you have some major scientific new result and you would like to publicize it, then they can look at your paper and then write it out in a nice way so that it's suitable for popular consumption. So I think we can get professional help if we would like to. And I probably, many of the important results that are being published in our own journals, we could start with that and maybe get them to write,
Times
go into the news.
Yes, times are changing. And I would say, I do not have that resource where this taking a scientific paper and making it into a, easily understood and published paper I'm talking about, easily understood note, and putting it on the website or the Facebook. You really need help from people who are really good at doing that. So this company that you're talking about, I don't know what kind of professionals they have, but that can certainly be tested.
Well, I know that they have been employed by ISC Bangalore and IIT Bombay to do this, and so there's a continuous stream every time there's a publication in an important journal. So then our dean just gives them that information, and then they put out a press release. The institute puts out a press release, and sometimes it's picked up by the newspapers, but otherwise it's on our website.
Okay, so this is something, as I'm saying, that there is a shortage of manpower who can do this kind of thing. So it might be a good idea to do such activities where we can communicate. As I said, that the Indian Journal of History of Science, many of the articles are very interesting and people can read. Nobody has the time. I guess most of the people do not have the time to go through the whole text, given the amount of readings we have to do. So I think that would be good.
Yeah. And I feel that your suggestion on making a connection with journalists is also very important. And
yes, we've had one or two journalists coming in and speaking at INSA, and they seem to complain that you don't know how the newsroom works, and scientists don't know, they don't understand us. So that that kind of bridge has to be built. So yes.
Any questions? Yes, please go ahead. I thought I saw somebody with a hand up.
I think what I request to everyone is to sort of come out and help us to make propagation of science more easy and adopt the new technologies that are there to reach out to people. And yes, I think Facebook, we have some followers, we have quite a few followers, but we have not really put any scientific, summary of science. We are only advertising our meetings and etc. etc. So a meeting report, for example, from this meeting, one can.
Can I make a statement?
Yes, please.
Yeah, you know my views, madam, but I like to reiterate. You mentioned about white papers.
Yes.
And I think INSA should be bringing out white papers of issues of consequence, ranging from CRISPR Cas to cyber security to deforestation to ecological changes. And these we started also, and I think these have to be intensified in a larger number so that our outreach objective in truest sense is achieved. I think the policies are made by people who have only 5-year perspective. The bureaucrats have 2-year perspective. Only the scientists could have a long-term vision for the country. And I think we have to assume that role of creating information pool on various aspects, not only 1 or 2 or 3, but various aspects which will impact the future generations. So I think INSA should be bringing out white papers on various aspects on health, on security, on hazards, on geohazards, whatever, and how the country should be managing. So INSA should be a resource pool for policymakers and public to be well informed to take their decisions. I think that is what academies should be doing, bringing out books, booklets, whatever you mentioned about interaction with journalists on specific thematic issues. That is what the science says. I think the whole thing is what the science says is important because it can be easily twisted around otherwise. So I would request you once again that we should intensify our effort, and it will require the involvement of entire fellowship of all the 3
Yes.
academies together.
Yes,
A
that's
willing
what
involvement in a time-bound manner in a mission mode. So I'll urge you, you have been very proactive in this, and it's a wonderful lecture, I must tell you. I learned a lot, and you worked very hard on the slides that you, it was also an example of how slides should be made. So it was a wonderful lecture, and compliments to you.
Yes, I know, in your times you have got this white paper on COVID-19. And if fellows come together, I'm sure, I'm also talking about the other 2 academies where, we have a lot of expertise all around and we can come out with white papers that are of relevance.
I can easily mention that a COVID-19 book, whomsoever I've shared, have called back, and these are senior doctors of the country, have called back and said, "This is a wonderful thing that you have done. We learned a lot." And I think that's where the INSA's visibility will improve if we bring out similar white papers on various aspects of it, various aspects which will affect the society in the future. And we should be thinking of the future of country rather than anything else. I think we are the custodians of future on a long-term, with a long-term vision. So please think about it, and I know you'll do something.
Yes, we can have small groups, doing addressing. Professor Pentel has been asking me that our GDP, the amount of GDP we spend on science and technology, and we have to do something about it. But I have to. I
think Professor Pentel has made this plea from all this, and I think we should make a strong case with data and facts. And Professor Pentel has made a very valid point.
Yes, he has. So we'll try. Thank you very much for all your comments here.
Thank you for the beautiful talk. It was nice.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Nautial informs me that we have actually put on our Facebook one story about palm prints, and as a snippet, as a little snippet. I think that kind of information on Facebook makes it more attractive, and I'll surely try, but I need really help from others because it's very time taking and all of us are busy in various things. So if we can give a little bit of our time on these matters, then we'll be successful.
Is there any other question or comment? If not, please join me in thanking the President once again.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's been an enjoyable experience. And I got one more message. I don't know what message.
Yeah, it was indeed excellent talk.
Thank you, Dr. Pal.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
You
And
can now.
with that, we'll close this session.
And I must congratulate you, Professor Thakur, because this was entirely your idea to have the conveners of the sectional committees arrange the talks. And this turned out really good. So I must thank you
The
for
talks
helping.
have been really, I mean, the speakers have taken outstanding efforts to
Yes,
prepare really excellent talks.
very nice. Thank you.
I've enjoyed them.
Your talk was quite illuminating.
Yeah, I also learned a lot during making up the talk.
We also learned a lot.
Yeah.
Yes. Excellent talk.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Thank you.
Excellent talk, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So we can say goodbye now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
This is Hemant Majumdar. Thank you again.
Thank you.